Today's conversation is with Rohith Bhat, not the headline version of a founder, but someone who has lived through the messy middle of entrepreneurship. In 1996, he founded Robosoft from Udupi, a historic temple town on Karnataka's coast, known for its culture and cuisine, near the port city of Mangalore, a commercial and educational hub that connects this coastal region to the world. At a time when ambition was expected to migrate to metros, he chose to build from there, and he proved early that the world-class digital products don't need Tier 1 pin codes. From this coastal belt, Robosoft built global products, earned international clients, and created meaningful opportunities for local talent. He later founded 99Games, extending that product-first thinking into consumer gaming, showing that creativity-led businesses from India can scale globally, defining the orange economy long before the term became popular. In 2017, Robosoft was acquired by Technopro Holdings, a rare global outcome for a company built quietly and with conviction outside India's startup hubs. Rohit is regarded as the key founder of Silicon Beach, helping shape a thriving tech ecosystem along coastal Karnataka. Today, companies like Bose, Tech Mahindra, Infosys, and others have established a base in the region. His work sits at the intersection of technology, product thinking, and human judgment. And what truly sets him apart is his view on governance in founder-led companies, not as a checklist, but as a way of thinking. Knowing when to step forward, when to step back, when to institutionalize, and when process itself can become a risk. This is a conversation about leadership, entrepreneurship, and building systems that can outgrow the founder. Welcome to the show, Rohith Bhat. You're the founder of Robosoft, one of the early builders of India's digital product story. It's a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome, Rohit.
Thank you, Saraswati. Thank you for having me here.
Rohit, I will jump into the questions. You are the founder of Robosoft, which is a household name in the region and beyond. It's taken you places where it is not limited to the region, but you are recognized as a leader in this industry by many, many people, and you're an inspiration to many, right? So you're the founder of Robosoft, which was founded in 1996. And this was the time when IT companies were mushrooming everywhere and growing fast as the demand was really focused on cost arbitrage. When most IT companies' story was about scale and cost arbitrage, you chose to build products and experience. That's a completely contrarian path. And today there's a lot of focus on what's called orange economy, which is highlighted in this year's budget, where value is driven by creativity, design, and human judgment. But when you were building Robosoft, this was not a recognized category. You were betting on talent and ideas long before this language caught up. Looking back, can you share with us what signals did you see early on that creativity that others did not see, and what made you believe that it would become a serious economic driver and not just a support function?
Yeah, so I think an early part of my journey was this opportunity to work for a product company based in Japan. So after my college in 92, I had got an opportunity to go to Japan in 93, and we were working on building a word processor for the Japanese language. So you can say that before Microsoft Office became a de facto standard, there are multiple Office products that were contending to be the leader in the market. Okay, and in Japan there was a product that was being built, which was like a competitor to Microsoft Word in Japan, and there was this startup building that product, and I was one of the programmers on that product, and it was a small team, but the ideal was everybody was in this mode to beat Microsoft, and that was for me, that was my first introduction to building a product that would compete with the best in the world. So I would say that the product bug, caught on at that point in time, for me. And post that, when I started Robosoft, I thought we will build the best products, for our customers. So we are providing a service, but the service is of building world class product for our customers. So that is the original, germination of this eventual journey towards orange economy, which is, more into gaming.
Very interesting. Um, it is a mindset at the end of the day, right, Rohit? Lot of
Yeah.
us get exposed, but you took it to the next level, and that journey has been very inspirational. Just picking up from the whole IT boom again, while a lot of IT companies mushroomed, we also saw that few years later, one of the most admired IT company actually collapsed. Right?
Hmm.
Ultimately, what surfaced from that incident was not just a sudden failure, but a long running disconnect between reported profits and actual cash in the system. Revenues looked great on books, strong on
Hmm.
books, margins looked healthy, yet cash wasn't there. Right? As a
Yes.
founder, what financial signals did you personally monitor to make sure reported performance always matched the economic reality? Were there moments where you trusted cash flow, bank balance, and other client receipts more than profit and loss statement? Was there a situation like that?
Yeah.
But
So
monitoring, what was the priority that you gave when it came to monitoring the financial signals?
yeah. So, in any startup's journey, Saraswati, first thing that a company has is that of survival. Okay. How do you survive? The second thing is about how do you keep growing your clientele, because your survival depends on, that, and, building a pipeline. So after some time I started saying to my team, look, we are in a top line, bottom line, and pipeline business. All three are important for us. It is not just important for us to have a top line, because, without bottom line, you are getting into a, cash problem. And without the predictability of a pipeline, you can't really scale a company, because, if you don't know where your next projects are going to come from, you might have a big team, and you need to keep feeding the team. And, if you don't have enough orders to service that team, then, you are going to run out of cash, very very, soon. So we started tracking, these things, a little bit more seriously. So the initial couple of years was all about survival and, growing the team. Those were the biggest pain points. Okay. How do you survive? How do you put up an office? How do you show an aspiration to your team, saying that, okay, this company will become, bigger? Then, it is about building a model, building a financial model on saying, okay, if you do this at this and this, and if you do it at this margin, how do you think, how we can have a sustained cash flow, into the business? But I think overriding priority was always about client. One is client acquisition, growing the existing account, that is, basically farming the existing customer. And, then, making sure that as we grew big, as our teams, expanded beyond 100, the thought became more about how do we build pipelines, because early days we were dependent on, two or three large customers, and, everybody else was, very small. It's a governance topic. You are, top heavy and all those things, and that was always rankling on our mind. While we were happy that we had customers like, Apple or HP, they were taking a large part of our revenue were coming from them. So that was a challenge as well. We initially we saw it as an opportunity, but, even though the company was growing, those accounts were also growing equally fast. So no
Hmm.
matter how many other customers we took, these, top one or two customers were becoming bigger and bigger. So that became a issue. In terms of governance and, in terms of cash flow, we had very conservative accountants in our system. And that was probably one of the things that you get by being in a smaller town. The accountants are always erring on the side of caution. Accountant by nature are always err on the side of caution, but the people in the
Follow the
small town are
rules.
like, yes, they were like, when they were seeing our margins in those early days, they were like, oh, what is happening with this? Because the margins in the early days were much, much, higher than, what they eventually happened to be, because small company, not enough overheads and all those, kind of things, contributed in, large, margins. But at the end of the day, there are things like revenue recognition, okay, capitalizing of your technologies. We were building a lot of middleware, and we were kind of expensing it out, till somebody came and said, look, you can capitalize it, you don't have to.
Capitalization, yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that concept was, at least I didn't know that's something called as a capitalization. And then, we started capitalizing, and being a technology company, we try to capitalize everything. Once you understood, oh, you can capitalize this, and that become a challenge. When you went ahead, and people start the accountant themselves asked after 2-3 years, look, what is the end of life for this product? And when we are telling them, look, no, this is going to ongoing, and they just couldn't understand that, because they were always saying every technology has to have an end of life, so you cannot say that it is going to be there forever. So those are those early things that we learned in our company's progression. One is revenue recognition. Sometimes we used to treat advances given as revenues. For example,
Okay.
a
Okay.
customer gives us, suppose say we take 25% as advance. Okay. And when it came to revenue recognition, we used to tell our accountant, look, we got 25% of the revenue, even though the work completed was 10%. Just giving an example.
Yeah.
And then they said, look, that's the wrong way of doing stuff, and you have to. And these things, for technology people, we were like, but revenue is revenue, right? Money is
Correct.
money. What is the challenge in recognizing that? But these are all the things that we learned, along the way. At least, to me, it was my focus was always on technology, and always on doing the latest stuff, latest design, latest market areas and all. But when we finance people came and used to tell us these things, and later on compliance started getting into the picture as well, all these things sounded very, very new to to a technologist like me.
No, no, thanks for calling that out, Rohit. But this is exact challenge, right? When we are in technology, we focus on technology. But
Yeah.
finance, these departments get siloed. But when it
Yeah.
comes to compliance, it's holistic. And
Correct.
that is the reason why we are I mean, having people like you with experience makes a difference to this channel and show.
Mhm.
Because when you run an organization, it's not just about one department, it's a lot more holistic view. And I really
Correct.
loved what you said as bottom line, top line, and pipeline. We again complicate it with a lot of financial jargons, right? ARR, NRR.
Yes.
But
Correct. Yeah.
a lot of people get very intimidated by these words, and then they say, okay, I will do my job. But
Mm.
governance is simple when it is put in the simpler way that like you have done. Thanks for doing that, Rohit.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll ask you a very direct question, right?
Hmm.
We have many organizations, several Indian companies where, it is promoter led,
Hmm.
where the influence of the promoter, of the founder,
Hmm.
is so overwhelming that it influences financially, operationally, culturally, and sometimes
Hmm.
governance
Hmm.
becomes symbolic rather than
Hmm.
actual governance, right?
Hmm.
As
Hmm.
a founder
Hmm.
with full control where you started everything
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
the early years before like you said
Hmm.
the whole governance picked up,
Hmm.
how did you consciously prevent excessive concentration of power around you, and
Hmm.
what checks did you put in place to ensure there is authority distributed and it is not concentrated?
Yeah. I think, it happened to, me in a natural way, because the early days of companies' growth were based on, bank debt.
Hmm.
Okay. And the second thing was, we had a good, chartered accountant, and our finance team head was also there. But largely, we used to do the frequent project updates to our bank, and they would come and ask a lot of questions to us, especially around all these recognition, cash flows, and all those kind of things. So those inculcated the early days of discipline, because when you're a founder and you started the company, you're pretty much have your fingers in every pie. When somebody tells you, like, this is not the way you do revenue recognition, you just don't admit to it that, okay, this is some jargon that somebody is throwing at me, is the typical mindset that we have. And having that diligence in those early days from these teams really helped. And it was a little bit challenging for, in our case, because our margins were in the early days, they were pretty good. And a lot of places governance becomes more important when you are you have only a limited leeway to operate within. That's when you are looking at every penny, every pie, where is it going, and you are always trying to optimize it. Okay. But back in those days, our priorities were elsewhere. Our priorities were growing, priorities were signing on to newer customer, traveling the world, finding new customers, going to trade shows and all. And when we used to think that those were the most important things in our company, and somebody would bring us, say, look, you don't know revenue recognition this way, you cannot report it in this way, you have to capitalize stuff and all these things. It used to for me, it used to look like, okay, why are we even wasting our time on this thing? But as you mature, as a founder, you start questioning yourself a lot more, and that happened to me, that, okay, I don't know a lot of things here. Initially I know everything. That typical stage of every founder. You feel that you know everything, every part of the business, and then you start feeling, okay, I don't know certain things. And as you mature more and more, you realize that you don't know a lot of things. And that's when the as the organization scales, that realization sets in, where you feel that you don't know a lot of things. And having that mindset of learning new things from everyone around you, starts taking equal importance. Okay,
Yeah.
the importance of budgeting, the importance of having an MIS, these things, start becoming more and more particular. It's about building the pre-sales team, building the understanding the funnel conversion. All these things become important as the team grows. Initially, when you are in the center of everything, and I personally realized this in our company when our company started going beyond 200 people in size. Till 200 people, everything was manageable, because I would know everything in every part of it. I would know the names of every employee in the company. But as you grow beyond that, and you have to bring your sales head, you have to bring your pre-sales, you have to bring your delivery head, you have to have domains, you have to identify domains, you have to give responsibility of the domains to different people. And when you do that, you'll have to define the KPIs for each of those unit heads. And then you think that the KPIs are only for
Reporting.
yeah, KPIs are only for the delivery people. Then after some time you realize, okay, even the finance people need to have a KPI, even the operations people need to have a KPI, even the HR needs to have a KPI. You start expanding this. But once you understand the philosophy, these starts become institutionalized. Okay. And for us, one of the early things we started getting into this process oriented thinking was when we went for ISO certification. Till then, our project tracking was in a particular way. But when we did the ISO, it taught us a lot of things about structured way of doing project estimations and all. And that improved the maturity as well. Then we had dedicated practitioners. We put together a SQA department, software quality assurance, which is very different from the product quality assurance. So there was a team that we formed, and they started looking at quality at an organization level. So as a company, the SQA became a very important function for us, which till probably at least 7-8 years into our existing, we did not even know it existed. But when we started putting it together and we gave them the ownership, I think that was another level of learning that happened within the organization. Not just for me, because most of the people in the organization were also looking at the leadership from the founders level. Even they were learning all these things. as well. So all the bad habits that I had were inculcated by the people down the line. And when I was learning, I was telling them, look, I think it's time to unlearn some of these things and give the space required for certain other things like the budgeting part of it, the tracking part of it, the process part of it, the organizational software quality assurance part of it. Those things started becoming more important. It was a realization progressively. As scale came in, we realized that okay, this cannot be powered by one person, and
But
that
but I'm sure
naturally
it
fell
is
in
it.
place.
I'm sure it was a difficult journey, right? Where you were involved in everything as a founder to have department heads make sure it's reported to you. One is that journey itself is different. How did you ensure those numbers reported were actually the right numbers? How did you manage to get to that level of governance where you could trust those numbers and it was not just a checklist?
We had something, our earliest experience in this was when we put together the SQA, software quality assurance, and they were looking at every project at an organization level. Okay,
It's like
so
a
till then,
pre-audit.
yes, it was they used to audit all the projects in the company in a way. Till then, we were only reliant on a project manager of a project telling us, oh, this project is 60% complete. Now, when the SQA was formed, they would really go in and start looking around and understanding whether it is really 60% or it is 40%.
Yeah. So is it?
Understood, no?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
absolutely. So is it fair that their charter was beyond projects because sometimes it's also the financial records, right? Were they also auditing these financial records?
no, they were looking at it more from a operational
Project management.
perspective. Yeah, operational perspective, because the first hurdle we started hitting and as we scaled was see all our billings were milestone based, and we would think that we have hit a particular milestone because that's what the report would come in saying that okay, we are at 60% completion, and the client would say no, you're at 25% completion. Okay, that was when we started seeing this pattern that we have to have much better control over this, and to make sure that when somebody says 60%, there is an internal body which is really ensuring that it is 60%. Otherwise, you have that comes back as a cash flow issue for you.
Correct. Correct.
You have people putting in so much of effort, and based on the effort it should be 60% complete, and if it is only 40% complete, there is a that's a underperformance there, and there's a
Yeah.
this concept of protecting unproductive workers, because letting go of unproductive people becomes a challenge for the leaders. Okay, so these things started helping us from an operational perspective initially.
Sure. Sure.
But then, the finance department, started looking at it at one level deeper, saying that, okay, if it is 60%, then, they started questioning the SQA, saying that, look, you are saying it is 60%, you are certifying it is 60%. If it is 60%, why is the customer not paying?
So there was layers built to ensure
Yes.
governance was actually
Yes,
reported
yeah,
right.
there were three layers. The first layer was at the team level, at the project lead level, and the project manager level, and then it was a SQA level, the software quality assurance, making sure that the defects were not high, defect injection ratio. We used to have a bunch of metrics to understand the efficiency of each team, and then ultimately at a finance level, because our cash flows were depending on that and our margins were dependent on that. So, and we wanted predictability, as our need for predictability become larger and larger. As the company started becoming larger, our need for predictability become uh, you know all important, because it's just a
Absolutely, and
matter.
that's what makes the compliance easier and the
Yes, yeah,
governance easier.
yeah.
Rohit, very related to founder-led behavior, cultural element, right?
Hmm.
Numbers look great, right? But in a lot of cases, before the number collapses,
Hmm.
culture usually does. And that's a
Hmm.
big part of the organization, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
because people stop questioning.
Hmm.
It could be fear, it could be the culture of not being able to ask the higher authority
Hmm.
because they feel silence is the safety. Silence is more
Hmm.
safer,
Hmm.
right? What culture signals did you watch for people to ensure people actually felt safe speaking up? Even when the message was inconvenient, risky, they did not hesitate to be able to speak up, right? And as a leader, how did you respond? Because some of these questions could be very challenging or challenging the leadership decisions itself. How did you respond to that as a founder?
Yeah, so we used to have one of the things that our SQA team had done back then was having a feedback box. Every area had a good old people can just write it, scribble, and put it in a note, because that is the most untraceable form of feedback. Okay, if you send it on an email, there is always a fear that the IT people will tell the bosses that who sent that message. Okay, so we had this simple old the
Anonymous
olden
box.
anonymous boxes out there, which would give an opportunity for people to voice their opinion. Now this is apart from the usual formal feedback mechanism. We used to have the performance appraisal system, which used to speak to people on a regular basis, quarterly basis. Then we used to have an annual performance appraisal, based on which the increments used to happen, the incentives used to happen. But apart from that, we had this anonymous system, and we also used to have town halls happening every once in a while, where people had an opportunity to voice. And I know that most people don't voice in public
Correct.
forums, but there are some people who are like the representatives of people who don't want to voice, and they used to always feel like they used to take pride in voicing other people's feedback as their own feedback. But because we used to keep these channels of communication open at different level, we used to get to hear a lot of these things happening in the company. And whether to do anything about it or not was more about us judging the seriousness of that. And basically it's a judgment call. Most of them we got right, some of them we didn't get, probably we didn't get right, and we learned from that, and we started improving upon them subsequently.
Thank you, Rohit. See, while we started looking at how you took a contrarian view of building product and providing customer experience and in the whole orange economy, you also did something very different, right? You in when you started Robosoft between 96 to 2013, you were very involved, deeply involved in steering Robosoft through its formative to growth year. During this period, talent, capital, visibility were all naturally drawn towards tier one city because there was IT boom. This was when the IT boom was happening and everybody was moving to metro cities. But you chose to build and scale the company in tier two city, Udupi specifically. Building and scaling from Udupi rather than metro created a very, I'm sure, very unique leadership, but also very unique leadership challenges and governance challenges. What structures or what were the things that you had to put in place to ensure stability, credibility, and more importantly, continuity of business? I'm sure you had
Yeah.
several challenges and constraints, right? Where the
Yeah.
moment you reflected and said, okay, this was a bad choice or this was a great choice or I'm going to make it, with that moment where governance choices were tested. Very keen to hear that because this is again a very completely contrarian but unique thing that you have done.
Yes, yeah. So one of the another contrarian thing that we did, Saraswati, was somewhere down the line, around 2008, 2009, we realized that we have been building products for outside companies for far too long. We should build our own product company. So, which is where the thought of 99 Games, Global Delight, came up, because we realized that the products that we were building were winning. Awards, accolades, around the world. And we said, okay, we have seen it all. How difficult is it for us to,
Through Made in
brand
India.
it? Yeah, make that's the same thing, made in India, made for the world, all those things, we started we started dreaming about those things. And
And much
the
ahead of
initial,
time again, Rohit, much ahead of time. And that's why you
yes.
are visionary in that space.
Yes, sometimes, some people call it visionary, some people call it foolishness as well. So, I always, when people ask me, look, how do you do things that you did? I said, look, sometimes it is not just about being a visionary. Sometimes you have to be foolish enough to believe in that vision as well. So to others it might look foolish, and when sometimes we look back at it, it looks foolish as well. But if you are not willing to take that chance, then you're not taking the chances, as simple as that. And we saw an early opportunity back then with the mobile, and it's the same as with AI now. If you look at AI, there are some fantastic opportunities for new age entrepreneurs to go out there and try to build something very very unique, and probably else has done it before. So because the entire thing is kind of democratized. So that happened with mobile. Suddenly it did not matter whether you are a single person startup or you are a huge company. The field got leveled. It was a level playing field, and that's what I call as democratized, because there was no difference between a $1 billion company and a two-person startup in the early days of mobile. And that created some governance challenge for us as well, because we were using the revenues from a services business and putting that into a product business. Okay. And initially we thought, okay, what is the difference, it's all belonging to one company. But then we started looking at the way we are doing our MIS and all, and somewhere there was a cost center, there was a profit center, and we realized that this thing of our experimentation has to conclude in some form. And we said, after doing a few products, that okay, these businesses needs to be farmed out, and all their activities has to be captured separately as a different entity altogether. So we initially started tracking them while everything was a part of Robosoft. But after a few years, we said, okay, we need to make a completely different company, because you can't have any of those accounts. So we went ahead and
Created a different
removed all
entity.
those. We did the complete accounting, and that's when those subsidiaries were born for the company. So but in between there was all this talks of governance and all, because you're a services company, you're doing products. Are you a services company, are you a product company, and all those things. And sometimes our customers would ask us, hey, look, you're also doing product now. Does that mean you'll prioritize less on our product?
Yeah.
Okay, will that be a bigger priority for you, and these kind of things? Then we said, okay, no, we can't have this, and we have to make separate teams, separate work area, and all those processes again we put in place. And we told every one of our customers, we told one thing: look, in Robosoft, anything is excusable except of copyright infringement. And this communication we sent both outside as well as inside, because what was happening was, right from the early days, we were working for competing companies. For example, HP, Epson, Canon. We were doing work for them all together in the one company. And it's important that information about products that are yet to launch shouldn't go from one company to the other company.
Correct.
So we used to always tell our people, look, governance means you can't have a loose talk and talk about your products to somebody who is not required to know. It's on a strictly need to know basis. So these NDAs started becoming very important for us. And especially in the mobile, when we got strong in mobile, we were doing news app for NDTV, CNN, IBN, Z News, all the 6 7 news apps, in the top news apps in the company, we were doing it, everything under the Robosoft brand, but different teams. And there also we were saying the same thing: look, the fact that we are doing this cannot be told to the other company.
While you put it very softly, Rohit, I think that's what Steve Jobs said, right? Stay hungry, stay foolish. I think
Yes.
that's what drives the vision. While you said
Yes.
it's foolish, but I think that's the core vision, core
Yes,
thought.
exactly. Yes, yeah, definitely. Saraswati, I think stay hungry, stay foolish is something I completely subscribe to. If you are not foolish enough to try it out, then I always tell people, look, there has to be a little bit of foolishness in you to try this journey, because no sane person would start a company. It is that difficult. At some stage, you start saying that, okay, this is not worth it.
Yeah, and that's an important call from a government's perspective as to when to quit
Yeah.
also, right? If it is not.
Yes.
No, thank you. Thank you for detailing out that how you had to segregate between the two organizations to have the governance clearly laid out. And that's a
Yes.
very important element, because otherwise everything gets mixed, and books go wrong and the problems
Yes,
start
horribly,
occurring.
horribly wrong. Yeah.
Rohit, at any point, were there situations where doing the right thing clearly put the company at a competitive disadvantage?
Hmm.
And if you faced any situation like that, how did you decide where integrity ends and where pragmatism begins?
Hmm.
Because it's a very thin line to draw, but it's a very thick line when it comes to execution.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it happened to us, Sharwari, and like it happens to everyone. We had one, particular case, where one of our employees, we had couple of them. I don't know how much detail I can really go into,
No, I
but yes,
appreciate high level, yeah.
yes, yeah, but we used to find something going horribly wrong, and the moment we got to know about it, we did full disclosure and we told them, look, this has happened, and we got to know about it just now, and we are telling you, and these are all the actions that we are going to take on this. So I think, be it a copyright infringement, willful copyright infringement, or a theft of copyrighted material, we because we used to propagate this internally in the company. We did not hesitate whenever something like that happened, and informed it to the authorities right away. And we informed it to our customers as well, saying that, hey, look, this has happened. We are sorry. We will do everything to make it right. But in the meantime, this is what we are doing to make sure that it never happens again. So yes, some very tense call, but we realize that with any of these things, it's always better to bite the bullet, uh, come out clean, uh, and take it full on, and don't try to sweep this under the carpet. It never goes away. It never goes away in a company with 500 to 600, 700 people.
Sure. Rohit, just I think we just missed one key element in the previous discussion. Because for me, how you built out tier 2 city is a very interesting journey, and I would really want to capture that element a little bit more.
Mhm.
And were there challenges? Because youngsters, they come in, they want to go to the tier 1 city, they want to have very different challenges that I'm sure you would have faced. How did you
Yeah.
manage those?
No, we were very lucky, Saraswati, and I'll tell you why were lucky. See, by the time we moved into our own building, we were around 350, 400 people. Uh, and then, Bangalore was growing, full on. And generally, people want to live that life and all those things. Luckily for us, Manipal happened at that stage. And when I say Manipal happened, Manipal was always there, but for a long time in Manipal, the earlier generation of educationists or entrepreneurs, they were not allowing the latest stuff to come into the town. For example, there was no QSRs, there was none of those things. There was no pubs and all those things. They're not allowing any of the fast food joints and all those things. And then when the new generation took over, they kind of relaxed it. So suddenly Manipal went from this place where there was only education and the old world fun, the going into the forest, going into the mountain, going into the beaches, going on the safaris. It used to always be a fun place, but all these new age elements started coming in, and this transformation of Manipal happened within 2-3 years. Completely it changed, and it became a party town as well. Okay, and for a lot of people who joined our company, especially the young people, and we started hiring people from as far as away as Maika in Ahmedabad. We started hiring people, designers from there, and suddenly they could stay in Manipal and they would not miss anything, because there was a city or town with 35-40,000 high energy kids, and these people have just come out of college, and they were feeling, okay, I'm perfectly at home here. that I think was a big turning point for us in our probably in our survival itself. That made a big difference for us. And Manipal, as you know now, I think maybe 50, more than
Happening
50,000
place.
students. It's a happening happening place. But back then it really we got all the major brands that kids want, all the major clothing brand, apparel brand, food brand, you name it, you have it. In fact, when early days of Zomato, they would recognize Manipal as the place with the highest per capita density of order. So when they were doing their zip code analysis of where the best, they said Manipal is the one with the highest, and they didn't even know that such a place existed. And
Wow.
when they wanted to dig in deep, and they realized, okay, there is this university town out of nowhere, and all this was happening there. So I think I think it was a pivotal moment in our journey itself, which helped us grow from probably 300 to 700, 800, 1,000 people, just the proximity of that. And Manipal had far better hotels than Udupi did, so we were able to put our clients there, and the clients would stay there. In the night they would go out walking, and there are students walking all over the town at 3 a.m. in the morning till 3 a.m. in the morning, and they just loved the vibe of it. So they saw this big building uh, in the middle of nowhere in Udupi, and then they stay in Manipal, and they say it's such a vibrant, happening place. They were like, okay, I think these guys are doing something right here, but why is nobody else doing it? So uh, I think that's an important thing. So I used to always say that if you want to build IPs, it's always better to sit in a much more uh, cooler place than in the middle of so much of distraction in terms of events, meetups,
Hustle
and
and
all
bustle
those
is less.
hustle and bustle. You can sit down and build great stuff.
So Rohit, you moved from founder to bigger organization, from smaller to building and scaling the team.
Mm.
When you had external investors come in,
Mhm.
how did you see governance change? Um, did you see it as institutional oversight strengthened the discipline, or it slowed down clarity and execution? Because there were other people now telling a lot of other things, right? From
Mm.
one individual vision, clarity, to multiple investors providing the uh, inputs.
Yeah, yeah. I think it changed everything, Saraswati. I think having external people in hindsight was one of the best things that happened to us, at least purely from a learning perspective. For me, I learned so many things from this entire interaction about how things are done, because till then in 2013 we got our first round of investment from Kalari Capital, uh, and that itself, raising that capital itself, was such a huge challenge, because back then everybody said move to Bangalore, you'll never get funded in Udupi, and all those things. But by that we had sufficient confidence in ourselves to resist all these sermons from investors. They brought this whole thing of tracking stuff. We used to have a review every 15 days.
Hmm.
We had a fantastic investor in Kumar. Kumar Shiralagi was on our board from Kalari. He was a great guy. He was a technical guy, but he is an engineer from NIT Surathkal. But in his heart, he was an engineer, but in his mind, he was an investor. So he would be, he'll just go very, very, very hard at us for 1 hour, and after that, he's always joking, and he's probably, once he's beaten us so badly in the board meeting, he has to make up for it in the next 3 4 hours. So he would be the absolute gentleman after that. But we learned so many things from that, so many terminology, so many way of doing stuff, because in a way you have never been exposed to that. So I feel very lucky that I was exposed to all those things very early, and our exposure in this improved even more when Ascent Capital, which is a PE, first was a VC. The way they used to think about everything was different from a
Hmm.
way a PE does. The moment the PE came, our VC was quiet, because his thing is like, Rohit, now you are no more my headache. You're the headache of the PE guys, and they will take care of it. So, and the PE guys had a different way of looking at everything. Okay,
Correct.
so I think a lot of learning, and probably in those years, I thought I have learned so many things, specifically about MIS. Earlier we were tracking top line, bottom line, pipeline, but it expanded from three to probably 15, 16 parameters, which we would judicially track every month. This entire process of budgeting also started. Yearly budgeting started, and at the beginning of the year we set out the budget. This is how much we are going to earn this year, this is how much we are going to spend this year. And the budgeting went from annual exercise to quarterly exercise, because then you can't spend more than this much money in the quarter. All these things become even more institutionalized. And I think the KPI system went in. We had we started hiring professional from outside, in terms of HR leaders who brought in their own new
Discipline.
practices into the company. uh, some of these guys whom we got in did extremely great value addition to us. Some of them understandably, some of them bring bad influence and all, so we had to quickly identify that and weed them out. uh, but it was there, it was there. And then I think we started building the sales team as well. And sales team, building the sales team itself is another exercise in governance, uh, because the way salespeople go about it, do the reporting, their way of thinking itself was another big learning for me. After the investor learning is dealing with the salespeople, because for a long time in Robosoft the sales was driven by 2 3 people,
Hmm.
including me. And it was mostly referral and all. But then once we wanted to grow beyond a particular stage, we needed to have a sales team, dedicated sales team, pre-sales team. And it went from being an engineering company to a sales
Commercial.
driven commercial company, because that's one of the things that the investors are also saying. Oh, you have to become 2000 people, you need to hire sales people. Okay. And they would make us hire all these people, and then 4 out of 5 would fail. And after a few years they tell, Rohit, that's the thing in every company, but they don't tell you at the beginning. So now when we are always thinking, what are we doing wrong? Why are so many salespeople failing for us? But after 3 years, this gentleman tells me, one of our investors has been on board all the 3 years. He says, "No, don't worry, that's the way it is. 4 out of 5 always fail. You can't do anything about it. You just churn through them." But I told him, you should have told me 2 years ago. I wouldn't have been fretting. But said the whole idea is to keep, you have to be fretting about your business all the time. That is one of the mandate that we have as investors. I said, yeah, I'll remember that when I become an investor. But yeah, you learn all those things. And then you hire for company secretary, full-time
Yeah.
company secretary. We had it at the board meeting. Become so much more important. And another key thing that we noticed was board meetings would happen initially, and then there would be a bunch of discussion that happen after the board meeting. Okay. And when the minutes were being recorded, you start recording the
What happened
not
in the
just the
meeting?
board, not just happened in the board meeting, but also outside.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Okay. So these were all the things that I saw happen. And then I said to our people, look, at the end of the meeting, you make all the points and get an approval there. And you know even as a chairman of the board and as a managing director of the board, I used to look at every minute of the meeting of the board. I used to look at it, because in between, when I was new to this, uh, I started noticing all these things happening, of new things that were not discussed during the meeting, but on the sidelines during the lunchtime, before, after, and all those things started creeping in. And I put my foot down and said, nothing doing. This this is we should be very, very truthful about what is being discussed. If you have a problem with that, let us bring that up again in the meeting. That cannot be added based on someone's
fancy later.
whims and fancies. Yeah. So
No,
I
but
think
that is
that's an important governance thing that
absolutely.
needs to be caught. You don't let your company secretary get bullied by anybody on the board into writing things that shouldn't be happening.
No, no, absolutely, Rohit, because I think that's writing or not writing, right? Because what is
Yes.
captured in board meeting is so important. And a lot of
Yes. Yeah.
organizations fail because it's not studied well, the whole meeting
Yeah.
minutes.
Yes.
And
And
later that
people
gets
think
into
good faith.
people problem.
And people think it's in good faith that nothing like this thought would happen. But yeah,
That's
when you
not
go back
governance.
and see, yeah, that's not governance at all. I have seen that, and I've been at the receiving end of it as well, which is when I first realized it. Okay, this is not what was discussed. What is recorded different from what is discussed, and we went and put an end to that. So yeah, a lot of there's never a dull moment, with all these things. Again, with the investment documents, also you have to be very careful with all the terms because you don't understand most of it when you're an entrepreneur. But there are certain things that were added there which I didn't realize, which went on to bite me so much. Uh, when it came to exit time and all those things. So, but yeah, you're none the you're none the wiser. So when I am doing all these, I do a lot of angel investing now. I put these structures in place right from day one for the entrepreneur, saying that look, don't allow this. No matter what somebody says, don't allow it. If you have a problem convincing your investor, come to me. Ask them to talk to me.
No, and that is why that experience speaks, Rohit, because
Yeah.
none of it is in the textbook, right? Or even if you
Yes. No.
study,
No.
it's for the marks. So,
Yes, it's for the marks. Yeah, you don't unless you are at the receiving end of it, you don't realize it.
that's
And for me, uh, getting an exit, taught me a lot of things, Saraswati. I used to think, having investors on getting investment, having investor on the
this
board is where all the learning was. But when I got acquired, and that entire last 2 3 months of negotiation and all these things, I realized that in a company, a value is as much built in the books as it is built in the actual work that you do. Okay, how everything is accounted for, how everything is, you have to be very very careful as a business owner in all these aspects because
Hmm. Hmm.
it can be it can be manipulated. I wouldn't say manipulated, it can be channelized differently. It can be channelized differently, so you have to be very very careful with this. Get a very good set of uh, advisors and make sure that the advisors are giving the right advice to all the stakeholders, because oftentimes what happens is you have two three different stakeholders and only one of the person is talking to the advisor and the
Hmm.
other two are not so much, and the internal dynamics between these stakeholders will be different. Okay, so only one version comes out through it, not a collective version.
There's
Okay,
way too many
so
discrepancies with that.
the way too many discrepancies, that again, like I said, I whenever we invest in multiple co-founders and all, now I tell them, look, you have to first decide who's going to be the CEO amongst you. Okay, you have to, and make sure that every time there is a paperwork done, uh, there is equitable treatment given to them, from an investor in a perspective. Luckily for me, when I exited Robosoft, couple of people whom I had worked very closely with, had were already on the way out, or because of the way acquisition was done, they had to let go of the company secretary because for another term they said, you can't, this company secretary cannot continue after
Hmm.
the exit.
Yeah, yeah.
So I told the guy, look, come over and join us, because he had 10 years of learning with me along all these things. I said, look, you have to ensure that none of this ever happens to anybody again in my lifetime or your lifetime. So he still works with me. I still work with Shailaja, our chief operating officer. She probably learned a lot more than I did, because I used to always be running with the customer, whereas she had to internally handle HR functions, delivery, everything. So again, see, one important thing, Saraswati, in all these things, as a leader, you are like a spokesperson. We always try to say that I did. It comes across like that, but it's ultimately a teamwork, and to make anything successful, you need at least 100 people doing things right.
Yeah.
Okay, a success truly has 100 fathers, I would say. Okay, because there are so many people who are trying to contribute to the success of it. It's not
Correct.
that one person. So as an MD or as a founder, I'm just a spokesperson here. Just by saying all these things, it's not, by no mean, it doesn't mean that I was responsible for all of it, but there's a whole bunch of people who contributed to all this. And I get the privilege of talking on behalf of all these people about the compliance that happened, the success that happened, the failures we took it in our strides, and probably new success and the failure that we keep trying to replicate in our newer avatars.
But that's also the quality of true leader, to be able to acknowledge the right set of people and make sure they come along with you through the journey.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Thanks, Rohit.
It's an interesting game. A lot of learning, a lot of interesting stuff.
I am sure, and that's why having speakers like you in this will actually make a difference to me.
Yeah. Thanks.
One
Thanks
last
for the opportunity.
question. One
Yeah.
last question, Rohit. I know.
Mm, mm,
Um, if you had to look back, right,
mm,
what
mm,
is the governance or leadership blind spot you only recognize much later about yourself?
mhm, mhm,
And if you have to go back and tell this to your younger self or the next generation of entrepreneurs who
mm.
are now looking at starting their entrepreneur journey,
Yeah.
what would you
Yeah.
want them most strongly?
Yeah. Trust but ensure. I think you should trust your people, but you should also have process to ensure that the right thing is happening. Because sometimes you trust, and that what you trust is not getting translated into it. And oftentimes I have seen that uh, it is not just me, but other people were getting impacted because of the trust that I had on people.
Mm, mm.
Okay, so you should always not leave anything to trust, but also have a process to ensure that that trust is translating into actual meaningful translation of intent. You trust somebody because you have a broader intent, but sometime like I said, this classical case of minutes getting recorded wrongly, or changing stuff at the last minute, and all those things are, right now I'm very very, no matter what I sign, I know where the problems are, and I always go and look at that terminology, and I know exactly where those
Issues would be.
game changing issues can be. There might be other learnings along the way, but at least I try to ensure that the ones that I've learned the hard way are yeah. So with that one thing, it's always trust, but ensure. You should have a team to ensure that your intent is getting translated. Yeah, you should have somebody on your team who
You trust
make
who has
sure.
the
Yeah, yeah, yes. So you should always have two three people, two three set of people, and there is an oversight amongst themselves to each other's function, and through that you ensure that the right thing is happening the way you want it to happen, not just for yourself, but for the organization, for the rest of the people in the organization. These things become very very important in an
very,
organization.
very valuable input, Rohit.
Yeah.
Rohit, thank you for your time. It's really a lot of learning that you have, and thanks for sharing it with us. I'm sure people listening will actually have a lot of takeaways from this. And don't be surprised with a lot more people coming to you for advice, because what you have said is, you now know what is the factor for not failing, or at least recognizing those red flags.
Yes,
What stood
recognizing
out to
the
me also is the fact that um, You have been a visionary in multiple things, right? Orange economy, much before the word got coined now. Tier 2 city, where everybody is now talking about tier 2 city. You've built it, showed, been a role model and example. Made in India, again, uh, a big call out and stand out in that area as well. So, Rohit, to me, this conversation has been a reminder that building early is not about timing the market, because in all these three parameters, you're built early, right? But it is about clarity of thought, patience, and conviction. And your journey shows that quiet choices made consistently, and it often yields or shapes the big outcomes, especially when it is anchored in strong governance, discipline, and responsibility of long term respect for individuals and organization. Thank you, Rohit,
Correct.
for sharing your perspective so openly and for reminding us that enduring companies are built not just on ideas, but on integrity and stewardship.
Thank you, Saraswati. And it was refreshing talking to you on these topics. Generally don't talk on these topics, so thanks for bringing out these points for the audience.
Thank you so much, Rohit. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.